This is Do It for a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
I take the opportunity to learn from everyone's experience, and I'm a really social person. Follow-up is key with networking. You can meet as many people as you want, but if they don't remember you and you don't give them a reason to, and you don't follow up with them, it's not going to be worth anything. Send a note. It's great meeting you. Or just find a way to stay connected to that person, because you never know when that opportunity is going to arise.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Hey, Do It for a Living community. This is Todd Ersley back again with another episode. And today we're doing something a little bit different. With me today, I've got Rory Connell, and he is the new chairman of Yen, and he's been involved with various automotive businesses over his life. And, I just wanted to get him on here and allow him the opportunity to talk about, his experiences working with other businesses and then what he's doing with Yen and his new position as the chairman. And so excited to have you on, Rory. And how are things going for you?
It's a busy year. 2017 has been great. Switched jobs early on in the year, and then, like you said, took over as the chairman of Yen recently in July. So it's been an eventful year.
For our listeners, I really kind of want to give you an opportunity to tell us about your background. Where did you grow up? What did you do as a kid? And then, your education, and then kind of take us through, the various positions you've had at different automotive businesses.
Well, I was born in Oklahoma, if we're going to start from day one. Lived in Oklahoma and Texas for brief stints as a child. My dad worked in the oil and gas industry in the 80s, so traveled a little. My whole family's from Ohio. A lot of people will notice I have a unique Ohio tattoo on my right forearm. That's just because, if you find me dead somewhere, return me to Ohio. That's basically
back to your roots, huh?
Yeah, that's where my family's at. So, majority of my life has been either in Ohio or we moved to California when I was 5, 6 in 91. And I've basically been out here ever since. Growing up, my family wasn't a huge car family, although our property in Ohio is large. So I remember my first experience with anything motorized, anything with a piston that burned a fossil fuel, was probably an ATC 70. Riding around my cousin's house, and I've just been in love with anything with wheels and gas ever since. Fuel.
Is that like a dirt bike or a four-wheeler?
ATC 70 is like the smallest Honda three-wheeler ever made.
Okay, the really dangerous three-wheelers, huh? Yeah,
I just got my son one actually.
Jeez.
I figure if I can learn to ride on it and I'm still alive, so can he.
Yeah.
So just pick that up. So that's kind of where everything started. Was playing on garden tractors and three-wheelers and quads out on the family farm. We call it the farm. It's not really a farm. But we moved out to California in 91. Like I said, my parents really weren't into it. I didn't have any motorized toys until high school myself when my dad bought me a dirt bike. But I was fortunate to grow up on a street. And my best friend on that street raced go-karts his whole life. His dad actually had bought a go-kart shop called Inglewood Kart Supply, which was the first actual go-kart shop in the world. It was founded by a guy named Duffy Livingston, who's actually a hot rod icon. He did Duffy Livingston drop axles for the old hot rods, Model A's, Model T's. So they owned this very well-known go-kart shop, racing go-kart shop that had a lot of lineage, and I just ended up hanging out with them in their garage in their shop every day from 4th grade on. Through high school, went to the track, wrenched, raced. My parents, once again, like I said, they supported it. It just wasn't anything they knew about. Still played the stick and ball sports.
Yeah.
But I always just, if I had to choose between football and a go-kart race, obviously I wouldn't supported my team, but I would have rather been at the go-kart race. Today, if you ask me if I want to go throw a football or get on a dirt bike, I'm going to get on a dirt bike. That's just, just what I was always passionate about. So I was fortunate to have them in my life. You know, raced all through high school, traveled all over, you know, with racing with my best friend Chris, you know, all over the country, raced internationally, the highest level you can in go-karting. And then,
so like really, really serious about it though.
Oh yeah. It was no joke. You know, his dad for a long time was like a direct importer of race chassis from Italy.
Yeah.
You know, and then his dad closed down the shop because he just got tired of it. But we had went on to race with other shops. And through that involvement, you know, in high school, I was fortunate to meet a guy by the name of Jim Holloway, who was a customer of the go-kart shop I was working at. You know, we had to work to fund the racing. We had to work at the shop and work on customers' cars, and then the shop owners would give us go-karts to go race and parts, and that's kind of how it worked. You know, we financed our way through working for customers. We'd change tires, oil. They call it go-kart tuning, you know, which is an art. You know, guys make good money doing it.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah, because they're kind of it's like a closed engine, right? Like you're not supposed to be changing stuff, so they do like really weird stuff. I remember we would like line up the flathead screws on the throttle plate to like be in line with the Airstream, trying to get like 100th of horsepower.
Yeah, this stuff like that. But the chassis tuning is huge.
Yeah,
I mean, having the right because everybody, you know, the weight plays such a huge part. You know, I'm a big boy. You know, my setup's going to be different from someone like you. You know, who's not nearly as out of shape as me. Unless rounds of shape. So did that, and I was fortunate, like I said, to meet a guy by the name of Jim Holloway. And I was working go-kart shops. I worked at boat shops, just always kind of self-taught, learned to work on small engines. I worked at a Sea-Doo shop when I was in high school, became BRP certified mechanic, so I was working on all the Bombardier Rotax stuff. And Rotax just had blown up in go-karting big time, and it's not really the standard anymore, but it was for pretty much a decade, Rotax engines. So, you know, had a lot of success and met Jim Holloway. Jim Holloway, if you don't know, most people don't, is the son of the founder of Mother's Polish. So him and his brother Jeb, I believe it is, run Mother's Polish, and he was a customer of the go-kart shop I worked at. And we were out at this track called Rocky Moran. Yeah, amazing track designed by Rocky Moran Jr. and Jackie Stewart.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was. They called it the Full Wood Kingdom. That was the name of it. It was the greatest track ever. They turned it into a Lowe's. But I remember it like it was yesterday. He's like, "Man, what are you gonna do with your life?" And I was like, "You know, I at the time I wanted to build off-road like race trucks. I was like, you know, I want to build trophy trucks." He said, "Well, how do you expect to do that?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't really know where to learn." You know, I had gone in high school. I was taking ROP classes. I became a certified welder my senior year of high school. AWS, American Welding Society certified welder. But I really had no fabrication experience. You know, all I could do was lay down a bead. And he said, "Hey, go to Wyotech." And I was like, "Really?" And I was like, "I looked at that school and a lot of people said it's not worth it." And he's like, "Hey, we just filmed Overhaul there. You know, I'm the producer of this new show, Overhaul." And that's before, this is before the first episode of Overhaul came out. You know, he had just told me about it, I guess.
And what year was that? When did that? Because that show was a while ago like now.
2002, 2003, I think, around that time frame. I don't remember exactly what time. And I was like, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I was at Wyotech. We were filming it. It's an amazing place." He said, "You know," he said, "I've been in this industry my whole life with all these guys." He said, "That's the best recommendation I could have for someone in your situation that has no, you know, I didn't know anybody at car shops. So it was just some punk kid that knew about go-kart engines." So I went to Wyotech and I went all the way out to Pennsylvania.
Is that where their like main one is, or is it just that one location?
No, their main one is in actually Wyoming, but I went to the one in Pennsylvania because it was a brand new campus. First and foremost, well, actually, because it was close to my grandparents. It was an hour and 45 minutes away from my family's farm, pseudo farm in Ohio. So I wanted to be close to them. You know, I spent every summer there as a kid, so any opportunity I have to get back, I still do. And went to Wyotech. I took collision, refinishing, you know, anything from bodywork to paint, which, you know, looking back at it, you know, you're getting stellar training if you really pay attention to it. I think that a lot of kids go into it because, it's a private for-profit school. And Wyotech just went through a really nasty deal with Corinthian colleges, which is a bummer. Corinthian colleges is like a for-profit conglomerate of schools. They have like dental schools and stuff like that. And unfortunately, they were more about numbers than quality.
Yeah.
But so their standards weren't as high for entry as Wyotech previously had been, to my knowledge. And at the same time, they had a lot more dollars and they were marketing the school heavily. So you had this large influx of kids that were there that probably shouldn't have been. And it really gave the school a bad name because, I got so much out of it. I'm confident I can work on a car from front to back, side to side, whatever you need done. I'm not really too afraid to dive in, even if it's chopping the top on a car.
Yeah, and I hate that they've got a bad reputation because, like, I personally feel like those schools are really good and they do produce lots of really good students, but they got like a bad rep because, like, some kids don't really care. They're going there because they didn't have anything to do and their parents are making them, something like that. And, as a company, you just don't hire those people, and the problem is it's kind of soured at least in the performance world, it's kind of soured the perception of those kind of students of like, oh, they're just like, some kid that couldn't figure out what he wants to do. And I'm always like, but they've got really good students. Like, you just don't get the bottom of the barrel ones. You go for the really good ones and you're going to get, you're going to get really good workers out of them. At least they've got some automotive experience. So, I really wish there was some way to like turn around that perception. And it's probably like, kind of like you were alluding to, like getting fewer students. But then it's more expensive. So
yeah,
that's kind of tough.
I think the biggest thing, that happens when kids come out is they think they know everything. I thought I did. Yeah. Shit, I learned the hard way. I didn't know anything, but that's the problem. And that goes back to like the whole Corinthian colleges thing. They really wanted to just pump as many heads through there as they could. So, a lot of those kids came out and said, well, I've got a degree from Wyotech, but they weren't even qualified to sweep the floor. Where there was guys like me and, I have good friends that build amazing cars, and kids, I see guys that went to school with me that are doing so much more than I am that I'm really jealous of. I don't even touch cars anymore. But, they just, kids need to realize that they're getting an entry level education. And and that's the same thing that like a 4-year college is going to give you. I went to 4-year college for engineering and thought I came out knowing everything. And then like when I got an actual engineering job, I realized that I didn't know nearly enough to actually do my job. And so, yeah, you're going to prove you can learn how to get the education. And at least with something like Wyotech or I don't remember what, there's a bunch of them out there now, but you're getting your hands on stuff, but you're still going to learn a lot later. Like they're not going to teach you how to tune a car. Well, actually they are doing tuning now, but they're not going to teach you how to use program a Motec or CAN. So it's not going to go that far, but swinging back around, did you ever were you on a path to go to college? Like what were your plans before you figured out you were going to go to Wyotech? It was going to be college and stick and ball sports, and I just couldn't do it. And my dad, he was, my family's full of college athletes, and that was kind of like, our legacy to continue, my legacy to continue to do that. And my dad and mom, I remember telling my dad, I'm just not into it. And he's like, you know what? I don't care what you do as long as you put your heart into it and you're happy. And I was like, that's cool. Because I was so afraid of telling him that.
He's going to be like, you're out of this house immediately.
Like I said, my dad was a very white collar businessman. My mom, small town girl from Southeast Ohio. They're like opposites attract big time. But they just didn't know anything about anything, that we do, that I do. So it was a big change. But going back to Wyotech, I definitely recommend Wyotech for anyone listening that knows a younger person that's really into cars. I think the guys that are really into cars and want to do something with it go there and they learn and they get a lot out of it. And I got so much out of it. I can sew. The hardest class I took there was trim. I'm serious.
Oh my gosh.
But you go around and you look at how many young people do custom automotive upholstery, not even just custom automotive upholstery, but just replacement upholstery. There's not a lot of trim shops out there, so it's a good opportunity.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, my dad knows how to sew because he's built interiors for hot rods that he's built. And I'm like, I don't know how to sew. It's never something I've ever thought about needing to do. But you're right. That custom car interior, that's most of what they do.
Yeah. It'll make you an even better TIG welder if you learn to sew. The hand foot thing with sewing is so much harder than TIG welding. That's growing up. You got it. That's growing up through college. After college, during the last 6 months of college, I got a job working for a place called Triumph Auto Glass, which is now Safelite. So I was installing windshields in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which was probably the most physically demanding job I've ever had, because you were doing semi trucks, anything with a windshield. We go out and it was freezing cold, put windows in the sides of Caterpillar tractors in the snow because science is awesome and they have glue that works below zero. And kicks. So installed windshields. And it actually did pretty good. Money wise, I think I was making $18 an hour right out of tech school, which I thought was like buku bucks. The most I had ever made before that was like $10 an hour changing oil at Walmart when I was in high school. And did that. They said, "Hey, we'll pay for you to transfer to Southern California." I was like, "Cool, I'm going back."
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Because my parents, when I had gone from Southern California to Pennsylvania, had moved back to Ohio, so I had no place to go back to. So I needed a job and all that set up. My parents bailed as soon as I was out of the house. They were like, "The youngest kids out of the house, we're gone." And they moved back to Ohio. They cashed out before the market crashed in Southern California and made a ton of money on their house and bought a mansion in Ohio.
Nice. Good timing, huh?
Yeah, they hate it though. So I always rub it in their face. They're miserable there. There's nothing.
Because it's not as pretty, or they're like bored, or what?
It was whimsical for a couple of years, but after that there's not shit to do. My dad doesn't hunt, he doesn't fish, so he's just parents. So come back here, and I remember we had somebody threw me a welcome home party. My best friend, I moved in with my best friend that I raced go-karts with. And my old boss from the boat shop was there and said, "Hey, come back to work for me." So I never installed another windshield professionally again, which I was grateful for because that sucked. I went to work for the boat shop for like a month, and down the street from my best friend's house, this guy had what I call the backyard boogie. His name is Steel Smith. It's an unincorporated area in Southern California called Wildemar. It's where basically freestyle motocross started, right there in Lake Elsinore, but you can buy, property with acreage. And this guy had a couple acres with, we called it the Field of Dreams, just anything and everything hot rod. And he just built cars and sold them. And it was in his backyard. He had a double wide trailer. And
he had his priorities straight, huh?
Yeah, it was, but we called it Backyard Boogie because it was in his backyard. Did that. It was awesome. It was probably the most fun I ever had, just tearing down old hot rods in the dirt and stripping them down with muriatic acid, just having fun. Did paint, body work, just anything and everything I could. Did that. And
were you guys building like show rods, or were these just like souped up, custom rods?
No, it was, we had customers that brought us cars, but he had a couple doctors that would buy these cars and he would just repaint them and throw an interior in them and they go off to auction. Yeah. But then we would do some show cars here and there on the side. I remember this 70 El Camino like it was yesterday. I remember doing so much color sanding, like your fingertips would turn raw and you couldn't pick up hot or cold. But I remember doing the body work on that 70 El Camino, and I'll never body work a bed again. Like the biggest thing. Like to where it was like glass finish in the bed of an El Camino. God, stupid.
Yeah, excellent idea.
And I saw it like 2 years later at a show, and the guy had rhino lined it.
Oh, he covered it all your work up. Yeah, I had done one restoration on a pickup truck, and we built like a sanding block jig. Because, I mean, we like bondoed it and everything. Yeah, knocked out the big dents and bondoed it. And then
you cut the edges out of the sanding block so it fits right down the groove.
So it fits right in the groove, and you just go up and down, up and down, up and down. Like, oh my god, it was awful. I mean, it was a long bed too. So it's an 8-foot bed, like early '80s truck or something that some guy had from his dad, and we were restoring it for him. So, oh my gosh, yeah, that was rough. It wasn't show quality, but it was definitely many hours of sanding.
Rad. I loved working for that guy. We built some really cool stuff. We did and he would let us. We would build our own stuff on the side. That was when I was in the hot rod dream. Mm-hmm. I would wake up at 7 a.m. and I'd go to bed at 11 because I was just working on stuff all day long. In my early 2021, did that, and somehow along the line I saved up enough money to move out of my best friend's parents' house and get my own apartment in the hood in Corona.
Okay.
Now, it's the only white dude on the street. It was pretty awesome, though. I thought it was rad. Right behind the drive-through liquor store. It was awesome.
Convenient, yeah.
But there was another shop in town called Barry's Speed Shop. Barry White. He was the first guy to actually have one of those shows where he bought cars and flipped them. It was called Rex to Riches.
Okay.
He was the first guy that did that, honestly. And
for a TV show, though, you said, right?
For a TV show. I think it was on TLC or Discovery, when the TLC was still around. And I had went up there to see if they could weld a pot metal grill, because we had a chopped Merc grill, and it was pot metal, and we were trying to weld it, and it just kept popping,
blowing out. Yeah.
And one of the guys had worked there for Marcel Delay. If you're into hot rods, Marcel, there's custom metal by Marcel, metal by Marcel's Metal Works. I don't know what it is, but he's the hot rod god. He built all the old school streamliners, and he just mastered.
Very cool. Yeah.
But this guy had worked for him, so I figured, hey, maybe this guy can weld this, and got to know those guys and started hanging out there every night after work, since it was right down the street from my house, and ended up going to work for them for a while. That was pretty cool. That was the pinnacle. They were building, from the backyard boogie to this pristine shop where, everything's white. We're building stuff for TV. Wasn't really on the show. I was kind of just the fat kid in the background
sweeping the floor. Yeah.
But literally, those guys put me in check. I still hate the shop manager. But no, I shouldn't. I don't. I learned a lot from him. But go the polar opposite. From dirt floor to this polished white floor. Got to work on a contender for America's Most Beautiful Roadster, which is there's that and the Riddler. Mm-hmm. So that $1 million handmade 32.4 aluminum bodied car. Wow. Got to work, where I spent 2 days polishing 12-point the button, the heads on 12-point nuts, bolts, so we could put them into wheels, and they were just little faux screws. I had to cut them down, turn the threads, and we had 2 cars in it that year. That was cool. And somehow or another, I got fired from there. Yep, I got fired from there. Oh, boy.
Didn't do a good enough job sweeping?
No, it goes back to that whole Wyotech thing. I thought I knew everything, and I just didn't give a shit. It was right when I turned 21, so I was just, 21 years old. Yeah. Thought I was cool, partying way too much, and my main priority wasn't work, and they knew it, and I would, my friends would constantly come to the shop, show up late. I was just an all-around asshole. It's my own fault. And Adam, the guy that ran the place, is dude, it's not working, dude. Yeah. And I was pretty pissed because at the time I didn't see that I was doing anything wrong, but that's just because I was young and dumb.
Yeah.
But looking back on it now, it's one of those things where I learned, hey, you don't know everything. You're not an adult. And I don't know what somehow along the lines when I worked at Barry's, I had gone over to West Coast Customs because it's across town here in Corona. And my buddy Mike from high school was the secretary there. I still think he's the secretary. He's literally the secretary.
Yeah. I think I may have spoken with him on the phone a couple times over the years.
Awesome. But I went over there to get some billet grill pieces or something, and Ryan, the owner, was like hitting me up all the time. Hey, you should come work for me. I'm looking for young guys that have, good experience and want to do hard work. And obviously, I went over there the day I got let go from Barry's. I need a job, So I went to work for them, working in the fab shop with Sean. Sean Mahaney.
Yeah.
Is a very creative person. Like, probably one of the most creative fabricators I've ever met.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I was working in the fab department. Sean, like I said, creative. And he'll tell you his fabrication skills suck. And I haven't worked with Sean for years, but he did things a lot differently than I would have.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But he was all self-taught, and I went to school, and I still thought I knew everything,
Of course. Yeah.
But it was fun. I started out there before the TV, right. Probably 6 months before the new show that came out on TLC.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I think I've watched every episode of that show. And I think they're on like Netflix now. I think I don't know if I'd want to go watch any of them, but
I don't think I've probably only watched a few episodes.
Okay, you'll have to binge watch it sometime and like count yourself or something.
Yeah, maybe I'll do it with my kid one day. So
yeah, look how cool I was.
It was cool though. Like the first week I was there, we were cutting up brand new Dodge Charger for Dub Magazine, chopping the top, shortening it, making it a 2-door. It was like they couldn't stop throwing brand new cars at us to cut up.
Really? Yeah.
It was amazing. Yeah, and then I loved that. It was fun, but I butted heads with Sean. So we did the TV show. That was a whole different experience. The TV show came along. We started the first couple of years of the TV show were really cool because all we built were just really cool custom cars.
Okay.
Now I'm not going to sit here and pretend like West Coast Customs is like the end all be all best shop in the world because there's plenty of people that probably do it way better. I can guarantee that. But I will say, they're definitely not afraid to push the limits. It's just sometimes the execution isn't always the greatest.
Okay, yeah, okay. I mean, they always built like really crazy stuff, like.
Yeah. Oh no, there's some stupid flashes.
I mean, they did do some of that, but it wasn't like every single build, at least that I remember from the show.
No, there was shit that like I was embarrassed to drive around. Like I would be driving, you're driving around Paris Hilton's Pepto-Bismol pink Bentley, and, like with your head down, like, oh my God, or there was some shit that was pretty off the wall. But it was cool. We were playing with other people. I was playing with other people's money. Did that. Definitely thought I was way cooler than I was the first couple of years of the TV show, just because I was young. I was on TV. Like I remember walking around SEMA. The first year the TV show was on, I was like, I'm one of the baddest fabricators here. And now I'm like, God, I was so stupid. I sucked. I'm like, and then it just, just an experience thing.
What was it like, having to build cars for TV? Like, was there like production crews all over the place, or would they come for like an hour?
Yeah, and if you know me, I'm a pretty animated person, and like I immediately got sucked into all the drama that they create. They definitely, like, we had the same production crew as American Chopper the first couple of years. Yeah. American Chopper started like a year before us, but their production crew was Pilgrim Films, Pelagian, who's like the big one. They do all the big shows like Gas Monkey Garage and Deadliest Catch, but their film crew would rotate from New York to California because they were based out of Hollywood. So they'd spend like a few weeks in New York and then rotate to ours in California, and they'd just be on rotation. So they had created this formula for creating drama, like right out the gate. These camera guys. So you've got a camera guy and a sound guy, and then a
Like a director, right?
They call it a writer,
Okay.
like a story creator, who like creates the story and writes all the notes about what happened. And being one of those animated people, there was a few, me-ish. There's a guy, Chad, who works there again. We called him Big Chad because there was Big Chad and Little Chad. And Ryan, and then we pretty much had people around us all the time. All the time. And it's when you see the schedules for TV, and it's like, oh, we got to get to this deadline, we got to make it here, blah blah blah. That's all BS. It's just a production schedule that you have to keep to, because the shops, you're an employee of the production company at that point. You're getting paid $100,000 or whatever it is to build a car in this amount of time, and if you go over it, it comes out of however much you're getting paid because you agreed to build it in that amount of time.
That's true. Okay, gotcha.
So that's, we would rush to get things finished, and then we wouldn't go actually reveal them until 4 or 5 months later.
Okay.
You'll see them sitting in the background of the shop like, why is that thing still there? I thought it left on last week's episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's always that. And then I've always been a networker, so I got into the parts department there and became the parts manager or whatever, because just butted heads way too much with Sean. And like I said, that's just my own undoing. That has, Sean's a great guy. He's a goofball. We just didn't see eye to eye on the way we wanted things done in the fabrication shop. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of an asshole to some of the other guys. The body guys would be like, it needs to be better. You know what I mean? And I'd be like, no, screw you, man. Talking about all you do is slang mud, because these are custom cars and it's not easy to do. We were cutting up Range Rovers with aluminum, aluminum doors, and you're trying to make a 10-foot long door for a 2-door Range Rover that started as a 4-door, and it's shitty aluminum made in India. But like I said, I've always been a networker. I'm just a talkative social person. So I kind of got into the parts thing. Scott, the shop foreman at the time, Scott Voinovich, nephew of Governor George Voinovich. I think it's George Voinovich of Ohio. He's like, hey man, you know too many people. You're too good. Because I was either going to quit or get fired, one of the two. I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember, but he had said, hey, I want to move you into the office and you start doing all of our parts procurement. And
so ordering parts for the cars and like making sure everything's there. Like, was that what you were going to be doing? Yeah,
which is definitely a difficult thing. Definitely a difficult thing, especially in a shop like that, because, we're going to turn Shaq's. We built this car for Shaq. It's like a 4-door. It was an S550. We had a 4-door convertible. Suicide to Lincoln. It's like, where do you get the convertible top mechanism for that? And I was literally going out to junkyards. Like, me and Sean had to talk about how we were going to cut the roof off, and then I had to go out and find it. We ended up finding like a Toyota Solara rear clip. Like, I've literally went out and bought the whole back half of a Toyota Solara convertible because it was the biggest, widest convertible top mechanism, late model mechanism I could find. And we ended up grafting all the interior panels that mounted the convertible top into that, and then on top of that, the parts guy, for anyone out there that's a parts person or has been a parts person, you can sympathize with me. The parts guy is always the fall guy. If it doesn't get done,
he didn't get this ordered, or it didn't come in time, or something like that.
Oh yeah, I used to get so pissed because like Ish. Oh my god,
I remember him.
Oh dude, I wanted to stab that dude plenty of times. Me and him used to go at it because he'd be like, "Hey, Rory, I need 10 yards of basket weave spade tomorrow." I'm like, dude. Shit doesn't grow on trees. Yeah. Like, you got to order that to get pressed because they, it's all pressed out. So, it was hard. It challenged me, but at the same time, it made me really resourceful because I'm pretty sure, like, I can find anything for just about any car. Like, because I had to find some shit. Like, we restored
weird stuff. Yeah.
this car called a Hork for these crazy Russian mobsters. And I was like, it took me like a month to figure out what the car was. And it was like one of these 50 hand-built cars before Audi like became Auto Union, like the original guy, crazy German car. And basically everything had to be hand-built and hand-cast.
Wow.
Yeah. That was, so I did that. I met a lot of people, though. When you're the guy that's putting parts on cars for a TV show, people will do whatever it takes to get their parts on that TV show.
That's true. Yeah.
And,
I can believe that.
Yeah. I got a lot of hookups from it, which was cool, but I met a lot of people. I met a lot of really good people there. I met Cammie Edelbrock, who's a really good friend of mine. Carmen from Aero Marine, who's like, I call her my second mother. Met her, become good friends with her. Guys like Dave Edmondson, who's a huge part of the industry from Roadwire. Met those kinds of people, learned how to network with people at those higher levels. So did that for years. But, as I got older and I got engaged, I realized that, I didn't want to do 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Mm-hmm. For a TV show that, quite frankly, made me look like an asshole constantly. So I was just over it. I was tired of answering questions for people. Oh, man, how'd you screw that up that bad? People think it's real reality. And it's still to this day I get it, and I just laugh it off now. But it just got old, and West Coast had some struggles management-wise. It just wasn't my deal anymore.
Yeah. Just wasn't feeling it, huh?
I just didn't feel like I was going anywhere and achieving any of my own personal goals. I was helping somebody else achieve theirs. And that's all fine and dandy if you're Ryan and you own the place, but more power to him. But it wasn't for me anymore. Would I love to be Ryan? Who wouldn't? The guy's like, the guy's got it all for building cars. Him, Chip Foose, two different people, two different styles of builds, but they're doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not many people that make it to that level building cars.
No, definitely not.
So, when I'd worked there, Callaway Cars was around the corner. They sublease space in the Eibach warehouse.
Wow. Okay.
Anything about Corona, California? It's like tons of stuff going on. You've got lots of manufacturers, but West Coast, Customs, Gibson Exhaust, who comes up later in the story, Eibach, AFE, BBK, all within. You could literally throw a rock and probably hit all of them, literally. So I used to go up to Eibach to pick stuff up all the time because they were blocks away. We'd walk up there, and Callaway was in there, and I was like, "Damn, dude, all these cool Corvettes, Camaros out here."
Oh my god, yeah.
And that's when, being on the West Coast, I never really knew about Callaway until they started popping up on Barrett Jackson, just because they're based out of Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
But I remember we needed some Corvette wheels. Great story. Dwayne from Boyd Connington's shop had come to work for us as the manager.
Okay.
And he he didn't last long because just two different things, you know what I mean? He's like the militant style manager, like straight dictator, and then you had all these hoodlums at West Coast.
Yeah.
He had brought over some pretty big customers with him, and this guy was Christian Aduge, who owns like Von Dutch and Vic something, VIF Speech. I don't know. He owned all the Von Dutch stuff that was cool back in the day, and he was super loaded French guy. And when Dwayne left, he took all these projects and customers with him, and we had to like get these cars out of there like it was a fire sale. And I needed to find Corvette C6 wheels, four front wheels, like that day. And this is like right after the C6 came out. I was like, man, that was the only thing I could get to fit just this crazy wheel and this brake setup that he had on there. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna go see if Callaway's got them. And I went up there and I just walked in. I was like, I need 4 front wheels. And they're like, really? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care if they have tires. I just need rims. And he's like, I got 4 cracked ones from the track. I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, you can have him. We'll figure it out. And it was Pete Callaway. And I was like, cool. And I became really good friends with Pete. I lived like a mile away, and I used to drive by their shop every night. So I was hanging out at the big old Eibach warehouse with Pete Callaway like every night. We'd go out to clubs, we'd go party. But it was awesome because the Eibach warehouse is massive, and he had probably 25,000 square feet, and it was just slick, polished concrete. And there was not even half of it was used for the Callaway setup. But Wilfred Eibach and Reeves Callaway were good friends. So we'd be in there like every night drifting shifter cars. He had an E30 M3, supercharged Corvettes. It was just awesome.
Shenanigans, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it was rad. One of the greatest days of my life was with Callaway. When I worked at West Coast, we revealed this black and white Lamborghini up at Willow Springs. Do you remember that episode since you watched all of them?
No, I don't remember that one. Not ringing a bell.
It was a Murcielago, and it was for this crazy Native American Indian guy, Dave. He ended up passing away. But he had rented the whole track. And me and Pete had we had a Nissan GTR and a Callaway supercharged Corvette, a Murcielago, supercharged S2000. We were just out there beating cars all day long. It was awesome. It was the greatest day of my life. And then Tanner Fowl showed up, and then, God, I forget the guy's name. Some guy showed up in this car called a Devon GTX and set the record for Willow Springs that day. But anyway, going back to where I was, sorry, I'm bouncing around. After I left West Coast, I went to work for Callaway. I took a huge shot in the nuts because I thought I was the greatest thing in the world still because I worked at West Coast.
Oh, yeah. So now you got this like TV personality thing going on.
Yeah. And you leave thinking you're this awesome guy, but at the end of the day, I was just a fabricator that knew how to order parts. So I went to work for him, and, Pete was just cool. He was moving his shop. He knew I needed a job. We were roommates at the time. We had moved in together. Him, a couple guys that worked for Callaway, my fiance, we all lived together. And he gave me a job. He said, hey, I'll give you 2 months. I'll pay you until you find a job to just help us move the shop. It's like, cool. And he was paying me $12 an hour. And they moved from Corona to the old Lamborghini Orange County facility in Santa Ana. And when that was all done, he said, hey, I want to keep you on. I'm going to start you out doing parts. So I learned production parts purchasing, how to cut a purchase order, how a well-oiled machine works,
because they were a legit business, like a manufacturing facility business.
Yeah, I went from, working at West Coast Customs where Ryan I'd be like, hey, I need this much money. And he pulls out a big old wad of cash and says,
just gives it to you.
Just prints off however much I need. He says, okay, bring me a receipt. To a place where, they're cutting purchase orders, they're manufacturing their own parts. They have a huge carbon composites business where we were bringing in, carbon rolls from Germany. You're purchasing and receiving goods in by the square millimeter, you know what I mean? And by ounces instead of pounds, So I learned a lot there, and then worked into becoming the production manager. So running the production schedule, got to do a lot of cool stuff there. But my favorite part was driving supercharged Corvettes, Camaros, Chevy trucks. It was rad.
Yeah. So are they still building cars? Like I just don't hear anything really from them anymore.
Yeah, they still build cars. They're they're basically like the Shelby of General Motors, not on such a large scale, and I don't think they need to be. Reeves, I met so many cool people working there. Reeves Callaway, the dad who started it all. If you listen to his story, it's pretty cool. He really, although his dad is Ely Callaway, who founded Callaway Wine and Callaway Golf. He definitely built his brand on his own, and he actually started Callaway Cars before Callaway Golf, which I thought was pretty cool. But it's always been a very conservatively run business, and they don't need to grow. They support the amount of people they have, and they build the very best product they can.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I respected about them so much because, delivered a flawless product. Flawless. It comes with a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. It's recognized by General Motors. They've got a relationship with General Motors. It was awesome. got to meet cool people like Boris Said. Boris Said just retired from his last NASCAR race this last weekend. Reeves Callaway apparently is the guy that discovered him. And then hearing stories about Le Mans and stuff like that was cool. Going to Cars and Coffee with Reeves Callaway on a Saturday morning in Irvine at the old school at the last place it started was just one of the most amazing.
Yeah, the original Cars and Coffee, like the real one.
Yeah, you'd show up with him and just people like, I work for him and I work for Ryan. They're both big names in their own right, but people thought people like Ryan because he was famous, but people revered Reeves just because of what he had done for the Corvette community and who he was as a car guy. Like, people had so much respect for him. It was crazy. And he introduced me to a lot of really cool people. Pete, introduced me to a lot of cool people, and I learned a lot there. Unfortunately, when you're building supercharged Corvettes and you have model year turnovers, things slow down. So when they went from C6 to C7 Corvette, people just quit ordering C6 Corvettes when they knew the new one was coming out.
Yeah,
So
that makes it tough.
I'm just going to wait for the new Callaway, so they go through, like, whenever there's a generational change, they go through a really hard time. And there just wasn't enough going on to justify keeping me and a lot of other people. And at the time, my wife was pregnant and had to go out and find another job because I got laid off, and worked for a Chinese guy for about 4 months, and he was importing hot rod parts. So brake boosters, steering knuckles, anything and everything that's basically in a hot, I don't even know, RPC catalog racing products company. It's all the same stuff. It's all eventually been a knockoff of somebody else at that point. It's one of those things where I just need an 8-inch brake booster. They all
that's it. They're all the same. Yeah.
Did that for a few months, but that really sucked. I was doing sales there. That was my first true sales job, and I did all right. I had sold spindles to every single Mustang 2 front end manufacturer. That was,
yeah, okay.
I had Mustang 2 front end. I had went to every single hot rod show and was selling thousands of Mustang 2 spindles. And
that's something I haven't heard. Like Mustang 2 front end, like I just don't hear that at all anymore. But
yeah. So that didn't last long just because, the whole thing was kind of sketchy.
There's some shady business probably going on here.
It was just, hey, it's on the way. It'll be here in 2 days. I'm like, okay, cool. And then it doesn't show up. And I just kind of got tired of that's just kind of the mentality, I think. It was, oh, yeah, it's coming, be here tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and 2 more weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, dude, I don't care when it's going to be here. Just tell me.
Just tell me when,
date, so I don't have to keep telling the customer, keep letting the customer down. So did that. That's kind of when I first started getting involved. That's right when I got on the SEMA Yen Select Committee when I worked at Callaway. I actually got appointed the first time around by Dan Kahn Media. He's on the board of directors now. Shout out to Dan.
So had you been involved with SEMA at all before then, or was Callaway like, hey, you need to do this?
No. When I worked at West Coast, we had done these West Coast Customs experience things where they still do it, I think.
Yeah, they still do it. Yeah, they have like half the parking lot outside, like on the west side of the convention center.
Yeah. So there was a few years where they did it even bigger out in the front. I think it's called the Silver Lot where Ford is now.
Okay, yeah.
And it was a bitch. It sucked. Like, people like, oh, SEMA's a bitch. I'm like, dude, you don't even want to know. Like, you would literally tear down parts of our shop, like tear down a paint booth and move it to Las Vegas, semi truckloads to go set up a shop in the parking lot. And I'd get up there a week and a half before the show, set up for then, and then be there for a week after tearing down.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I complained because we used to trailer our own booth, our 10x10 booth up there. Like, it wasn't like we'd get there like the day before and set it up in 30 minutes and we'd be done.
Yeah, so that's That's when I first met Joe Sebregandio, who, if you don't know, is the voice of the SEMA Cruise. He's a legend.
Okay.
I think he used to work. A lot of these guys are all tied back to Peterson Publishing. Peterson Publishing, who's now Discovery Channel, I guess, up in like after last week, kind of really started, SEMA. Well, like Gigi Carlton and Alex Zidius and Robert E. Peterson were kind of the ones, and some other people, those other legends, and I don't know exactly, but they all started the deal. So Joe used to work at Joe Sebregandio. I met him when I was doing that deal. He's the voice of the SEMA Cruise. Peter McGalvery, who's the show director, met those guys. And I kind of was always looked up to those guys, even though they probably can't stand me because I've just been bugging the shit out of them for years. Just trying to pull favors and get advice, That's when I kind of started meeting people that worked for SEMA. Joe has always been a contractor. He used to sell all the sponsorships. Now he MCs a lot of the stuff. I think he still gets contracted by them. But long story short, that's how I kind of got brought into the whole SEMA thing. Started meeting people, but we built a car for a giveaway. Ford had given it to us, a Ford Flex, and it got auctioned off. And I think it was like George Lathoris from Keystone. Was out there like trying to get people to bid on this car, and somebody got a smoking deal. They got a brand new Ford Flex for like 25 G's. It was all
it was totally custom.
Yeah. It was a well. They meant well. I just don't think SEMA's the place you do a sign-on auction for a brand new car. It's not like, if you know anything, everybody at SEMA's broke because we're all people trying to.
Because they're all car people that's their living. Yeah. You go to Barrett Jackson and like those are car enthusiasts that run like big businesses. The people at SEMA like run car businesses.
Yeah, but I remember I was like, how do you get that badge? Like, how do I get involved? And he's like, oh, you just go online and sign up. And I was like, really? He's like,
shit.
Yeah, dude, they got this whole thing. It's called Yen. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, cool. And I signed up, and I thought I would automatically get the badge. I just wanted the badge. I thought I would automatically. And this guy, Dan Dolan, hit me up. Hey, man, you need to come. Can you come and help hand out drink tickets at the reception? I was like, cool. So I went over there when I still worked at West Coast. My last team was West Coast, and handed out drink tickets at the door at the reception. Still my favorite job. Still do it every year because everybody loves the dude giving out tickets.
Yeah, giving out free drinks. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I first got involved. And then Dan became chairman, and I had applied for this thing called the Yen Fellowship Program. This is a thing they used to do. May bring it back. I don't know. But SEMA used to pay to bring like 10 SEMA young Yen members to the show. So like when I worked at Callaway, we didn't have a SEMA booth, but I wanted to go to the show so bad.
Okay. Yep.
Because I'd been there all those years with West Coast, and SEMA had this program where hey, we'll pay for 10 people to go to the show. They put you up in the hotel, and it's really to get people who otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity a chance to experience the show. And I probably stole somebody's spot because I had already done it a bunch of times, but I was greedy.
Yeah, you had already been there, and so there's probably people that hadn't ever been to SEMA.
Yeah, I'd already done some things at SEMA, but did that, and then ran for a select committee spot, and I did like this half-ass thing where I didn't even fill it out, didn't get elected, but then somebody ended up quitting or aging out, and Dan said, hey, do you want to do this? I'll appoint you. And I was like, cool, because Dan knows how to spot talent. So
there you go. Yeah, exactly.
That got on the select committee, and was at Callaway. Well, I'm trying to do two things in parallel here. So I was volunteering on the select committee, not really do anything, just kind of floundering, just trying to help out where I could. And then I went to work from when I left the Chinese guy. Being involved in Yen got me on the 35 under 35 thing. So I got that SEMA's 35 under 35. Somebody nominated me. I don't know who. But I had applied for this job, and I went in, and it was pretty rad. They had the issue of the SEMA News magazine with me on the, one of the 35 people on the cover.
Yep.
And I was like, that's pretty rad. Like, I literally just landed this job because I volunteered in SEMA. Like,
yeah.
literally just landed this job. So then I was like, cool, I need to get more involved. Like, shit's happening. So I went to work for this company called Body Armor 4x4. They do bumpers and doors for Jeeps. This guy, Jeff Neubauer. Once again, I still thought I knew it all. Had my first and only child there. Butted heads with him because, I was this young, wanted to go crush the world salesman, and he was like, pump the brakes, chief. There's a lot more things that are involved in what you're doing. There's these things called co-ops and all this stuff. But I learned a shit ton from him. He's old school. He's been around forever. I learned a ton from him. But I was only there like 9 months because at the time I was butting heads with him, I had applied for a job at Gibson Exhaust that was down the street. And I had known Sean Gibson because it was right over by West Coast. All this stuff happens within like 4 blocks of each other.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Car mecca over there.
Yeah. And I had known Sean, so I applied for this like national sales manager's job, which I had no chance in getting, but I just thought it would be funny to see if, because he knew me when he got my resume. And him and his mom interviewed me, and they're like, dude, you have no experience. There's no way.
Yeah, there's no way, yeah.
There's no way. And I was like, that's cool. I'm pretty much but they at least brought me in. They interviewed me. And I was, 6 months go by, 8 months go by, and I was still working at Body Armor. And I went out and worked at Keystone Big Show. The last year it was in Atlantic City. God, that's a dump. If you're planning on going, don't. But it was like the same weekend when we were in the same hotel when Ray Rice knocked out his old lady.
Oh my God.
Me and John and Robert Morgado from EGR Fender Flares. It was rad. But my booth just so happened to end up next to Sean Gibson's.
So you're like, hey man, remember me?
No, and we're like, it's cool. We're gonna hang out. We'll all stay in the same hotel. We'll party. But I went out there, and have you ever been to a Keystone Big Show?
No, I have not. No.
Keystone Big Shows are like little miniature SEMAs, 10x10 booths for the most part, unless you're like Flowmaster or MagnaFlow, and you've got more money than you know what to do with, and you buy half the convention center for a booth. So mainly 10x10 booths. It's a buying thing. Most of the stuff people have already seen. They're just there to get the deals of the day, which is cool. Keystone does a really good job in their execution with it, but it's not like real high paced. Fast paced.
Yeah,
but,
it's more of an actual trade show.
And as this industry isn't necessarily full of young whippersnappers. It's not a lot of one-man bands out there that are under the age of 40. So my booth was next to Sean's, and like I was out there hustling. I was like, I'm gonna sell way more trail doors and way more bumpers than my boss would ever do at this. And I was just competing with my boss. And then Sean's like, damn, dude, you're stealing all my thunder. Usually I'm the guy that talks to everybody. I'm like, nah, dude, it's not going down like that over here. You're in my neighborhood. And I kept giving him a hard time. I was like, man, I bet you regret not hiring me. And he was like, I do. I was like, because I was like, where's your new sales guy? Sucked. I didn't even bring him. And I'm like, and then like, we hung out. It was pretty rad. We went to a nice Italian dinner, and that was interesting. But hung out and never. I just gave him a hard time for not giving me a job because he's like, "Damn, you're pretty good. You got energy. You're out there. You're engaging people. You want to talk." He's like, "You're on it." And like 2 weeks later, I was really, really pissed at the accountant from Body Armor. He was a dick. And I wasn't really going anywhere. I was hired to do sales, but I was more or less just inputting orders. Jeff, and he's like, dude, I'm not going to blame you if you find something else. Because he knew the accounting dude, he had no control over it. The controller guy was just a dick. Mm-hmm. I sent Sean a text. I was like, so you ready to hire me yet or what? And he's like, I am.
He's like, yes, like, come on over.
Yeah, it's like, so like went over there a couple days later, and long story short, I started working there. Worked at Gibson for a few years until I just took this job. I
learned that's where you were working the Gibson stuff for Hot Rod Power Tour when I did it I guess it was a year and a half ago now.
Yeah, it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, something like that. Yeah. But I learned so much there, and it was cool. I've grown up in Corona for the most part, and being able to work for Gibson Exhaust, who has had this massive warehouse in Corona, and seeing all the pictures. There was this big old red flame truck that they built. When I was in high school, everyone had a hard on for this big old lifted Chevy, the heavy Chevy. But working there was cool. I learned so much, and I was kind of autonomous. Sean's like, hey, you're doing really good. I'm going to start doing other things. You're going to be VP of sales. I was like, well, damn, all of a sudden. Yeah. VP of sales, got my own sales team, hiring people. Learned a lot. They let me develop my own map policy, which I think is a huge thing. I'm a huge proponent of map. I was able to build relationships. I came over and took over accounts with key people like the big guys, Summit, Jags, Amazon, Meyer, Keystone, Trans, so I got to do that. And, fast forward to, me sitting there saying, hey, this is awesome. And Sean's like, hey, dude, you could stay here. We could retire together. But at the end of the day, he knew and I knew my name was never going to be on the side of the building.
Yeah.
Yep. And these people I had set up as a customer here in Corona, they had said, hey, we're starting this power sports business. And the guy started telling me, yeah, I used to own Rampage products. If you don't know who Rampage is, they're a large Jeep top manufacturer, bumper manufacturer. And I'm like, oh, who is this guy? But I knew who Rampage was because they shared half of the massive Keystone automotive warehouse here in Corona. And I set him up and set him up as a dealer. He came over, picked some stuff up, and I just remember, picking his brain out in the lobby when he said, I went out and introduced myself, and real nice guy. And I'm always trying to seize every moment, every bit of someone else's experience I can, whether it's good or bad, because you can learn from not only your own but anyone else's. And just out there talking to him, and out of the blue, he sends me an email. Hey, I'm looking for a sales guy if you know anyone. I was like, let's see what's going on. Called him up, and he showed me his products, and he said, come on over, showed me the products. Got some really unique and innovative stuff. It's the easiest thing I've ever sold in my life.
Wow.
And small company. They said, hey, you want to be a part of something and grow it, did some background on him, him and his former partner, Mike Deshanes, who retired, and, Scott, who's the engineer, all have these stellar histories of business and product development through this industry, through so many different companies that they've helped build. And I was like, this would be dumb for me not to come and, be a part of this.
Getting kind of on the ground floor early on phase.
That was the whole thing. They said, hey, we wouldn't, and they gave me the opportunity to build my own sales program, which I'm still building, still working on. If you're a friend of mine on Facebook or whatever, you'll see that, I pretty much spend, probably 10 days a week on the road. Every other week I'm out, in some other state, slinging triggers, as we call them. And the trigger is a wirelessly controlled switch box or source unit, which you would mount under the hood of your car and lets you turn all your 12-volt accessories on and off with a remote switch or a Bluetooth app. So it cuts out half the wiring in the car, and it's been pretty successful thus far.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. And, I said, hey, I want to build this. And they're like, okay, cool. And Scott, the engineer, shows up the next day with some crazy CAD file that he's probably spent all night 3D printing. And I'm like, no, I just wanted that for myself. And he's like, oh, but we can sell these.
We can sell these.
Right. So it's been a lot of fun. I've been doing that since February. And I've never had so much fun in my life doing sales. It's a lot of work, a lot of travel, pioneering a new product. The hardest thing that I'm struggling with is it's such a new product. It's so much different. It's applying technologies that already exists in the tech world. Bluetooth, RF, PLC, power line communications, to the automotive world, which is kind of archaic for the most part, in a lot of our thought, but you think about how many things are wireless in your life, your cell phone,
Mm-hmm.
your internet, your satellite TV, and it doesn't sound like such a far-fetched idea to eliminate, half of your wiring.
Yeah.
All we're doing is running power and ground to wires now, and we're communicating via wireless channels to turn them on and off, which is, saves so much time, so much cleaner, standalone.
Yeah, that salesman struggle has been my entire life for the past almost 5 years now. trying to sell project management software to performance shops is a task in and of itself.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is, it's so much fun to do. When it's your own product and it's something you're passionate about, it's it's not really work. I love going on trips to go visit shops and help people out. And so that's just part of the gig is just teaching them about it and telling them why it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's fun, and I'm learning a lot as I do. I've never traveled so much as what we call them jobber calls. In the truck accessory world, they're jobbers. I know you guys do a lot of import shops. Those would be what we call the jobber. But you learn a lot and you get a lot of feedback, and that's been cool to go out. And it's one of those products where you put it on paper and it's not real sexy, but then you go and show it to them in the shop, and I've got this bitchin' Pelican case where I pop it open and power everything up, and everyone's like, whoa. And next thing you know, every single guy from the back of the shop's in there, hanging out, checking it out. And your rep and the owner's in there, and they're like, how many can I get? Can I come direct? And it's like, no, I've got distributors, but my distributor, and just the reaction, you have good partners, and they see the potential. It's been cool to see the people who saw the potential in the product just jump on it and run with it. And then there's the other guys that are like, man, that's stupid. And I'm like, well,
go on to the next guy. Yeah.
The guy next door is selling thousands of them.
Well, I've got a couple overland customers, and I got a guy out. It's actually, I think he's out in California that's doing off-road truck wiring. So I'll be sure to send them your information and see if that's something y'all can work out.
By all means. But no, that's been fun to go out and pioneer that. But that's one of the struggles I've had is just spending time away from family.
Yeah, on that count. Let's pause real quick here, and then we'll be right back.
We all know owning a shop is difficult, so we created My Shop Assist to help you manage the various jobs. Whether you run a machine shop, a performance tuning shop, build off-road trucks, or even do powder coating, My Shop Assist can help you. It is completely online and will help you schedule the jobs, log time on each task, track parts orders, and take pictures of the work. You can even export your jobs from My Shop Assist into QuickBooks as invoices. So if you're interested to improve operations at your shop, check out myshopassist.com to start your 30-day free trial.
So back here with Rory again, and you've talked so much about all the different businesses you've worked for and all the different things, and it all seems to kind of hinge around the people that you've met. You've had great work ethic, but it's been the people that you've met along the way more so than the work you've put in. And so I hear one of the guys from the Shark Tank TV show, he's like, it's more about who you know than what you know. That's how you get ahead in business. And it seems to me that that's kind of exactly what you have done with it. And so can you kind of just give us a quick explanation of why or how that's played such an important role and why that's worked out, and then kind of maybe transition into kind of how that's helped you to where you're at with your new SEMA position, or with your, sorry, not your SEMA position, with your new yen position.
So I've always, like I said, I take the opportunity to learn from everyone's experience, and I'm a really social person. And follow-up is key with networking. You can meet as many people as you want, but if they don't remember you and you don't give them a reason to, and you don't follow up with them, it's not going to be worth anything. That's my opinion. Hey, send a note. It's great meeting you. Or just find a way to stay connected to that person, because you never know when that opportunity is going to arise. Gibson Exhaust is a perfect example. I worked at West Coast, and I'd go over there and pick up parts. But then I was always real cool with Sean and always kept in touch, and ended up becoming the VP of sales there. Callaway, another thing, met Pete, started hanging out, and ended up going to work there. And then as my career's progressed, I've always been involved in SEMA. Since towards the end of West Coast, I got involved, but I've always been involved, and that's been really, really crucial to the people I've done business with too. There was a statistic that Nathan, who's the VP of membership for SEMA staff, said, people who volunteer in associations like this tend to make 10 to 15% more doing the same job as people that don't. And I was like, wow. But then you think about it, I don't know if it's true, but in my case, I'm assuming that it's true. And then you look around at the people in the room, and you're like, damn, Cami Elderbrock, I talked about her earlier. I met just by networking with her. I spent 2 years when I worked at West Coast as the parts guy walking around the show with her. She would like parade me around because she did PR for Wyotech, and I was like Wyotech poster boy. So she'd parade me around to all these brands. But I met so many people at so many companies because of her and made so many connections. So networking has always been a huge thing for me.
Being able to have somebody else get your foot in the door somewhere goes a long way.
Oh yeah, definitely. You will never know what opportunities arise just from forcing yourself to get in front of people. Hot Rod Power Tour. How many connections did you make when you did the Yen Power Tour?
Yeah, a whole bunch. And all the people that I went on the Power Tour with, we still hang out, or at least we talk, pretty often, and we'll hang out at SEMA and stuff. But Zach Denny lives in Dallas with me, and we were just hanging out last week.
I know. I was gonna try to hang out with you guys. Couldn't find a ride up there to Plano. Just out of that group alone, I ended up doing a lot of business with one person in that group that was on that Hot Rod Power Tour group with you. A lot of business. I made some good commission off of it. It was just by networking. It wasn't I never have it in the back of my mind how can I make money off of this person? But when you put more opportunities in front of yourself, more opportunities happen. And then volunteering in Yen, just as I've been around longer and longer and more people have turned out, I guess it was just my turn to step up and run for the leader. I've always been one of those people that wants to be in charge just because
it's fun, huh?
Yeah. God, yeah, I'm a total dick like that.
But now you're the chairman of the Yen board, correct?
The Yen Select Committee.
Yen Select Committee, okay.
Yeah, so within SEMA, SEMA is our aftermarket trade association. They run the show. Most people know SEMA for the show. SEMA is so much more than the show. There's plenty of member benefits. SEMA Data Co-op, Tech Transfer, SEMA Garage, even down to just getting better rates for your insurance for your shop through the programs they have there.
We've met the insurance companies they deal with, the lawyers that they deal with, shipping. You get reduced rates on shipping. Yeah, so there's all kinds of good stuff.
I think they got a killer deal with UPS. I don't know.
Yep, it used to be FedEx, and it became UPS a couple years ago.
Yeah, that it is Chuck Cawthorn, who does their automotive marketing in Southern California. Is a Yen member. Great guy. I think the other girl's Kristen Debates. Yeah, because I've called him because I met him at Yen events and said, "Hey, dude, I need you to come over here and fix my terminal. Get this dialed." And I had met him at a Yen event. So yeah, now I'm in charge. Yen has been great for a lot of people, but I think we could do a lot more. We've got the largest membership out of all the councils network. So yeah, there's SEMA staff, who are the people that are wearing the blue shirts. Just
that
remember,
paid by SEMA, right?
They're
the SEMA.
Yeah, just remember this. No matter who they are, and all the staff people that listen to this eventually are going to hate me, but they work for us. They're our employees. They're here to serve our needs as members of the industry.
Yeah.
And they're not like our butlers or waiters, but that's SEMA's goal is to, really take. They're the babysitters. They're the caretakers, and they're basically like our government employees. They're the ones that keep everything running through the trade association. Would we all go out of business on them? No, but they run what is SEMA and the Aftermarket Trade Association. Then you have the board of directors, who is the the governors. They're like
Chris Kirsting, is that his last name?
No, Chris is the CEO. He's not the board. The board is all volunteers. You've got guys like Wade Kawasaki. He's the chairman of the board now. Mm-hmm. He runs Coker Tire. Tim Martin, who he's one of the main dudes at K&N, is the chair elect. So president, vice president. Then you guys got like Dan Kahn, former Yen member on the board, Laurel Dasher, Nick Ramos Beckler. Sorry if I got that wrong. Les Rudd, all people that represent different parts of the industry. You've got WD guys like Nick and Greg Adler from Transamerican. They represent the WDs. And then you've got like Les Rudd, who represents all the sales reps, the independent sales reps, the Koonsmans, the Bob Cook sales, the R&Rs of the world. And then you've got manufacturers, so like Laurel Dasher from Magnaflow, she represents all the manufacturers. So every different part is represented, and then so they're like the Senate. They're smaller but more powerful. And then you've got the councils and networks that are like the House of Representatives. So Yen is Young Executives Network, everyone under 40. There's a hot rod group. There's Pro for professional restylers, and then you've got like LTAA for like truck, the Wheel and Tire Council. But
the thing about Yen is it's like anybody, as long as you're under 40. Right? Anybody
under the age of 40. And it's strictly, the main purpose is just to elevate each other and lift each other up through, the more opportunities we can put young people in front of each other, the better, because, not everyone knows what's going on. I have no idea what's going on in the custom automotive shop management software world.
Yeah.
But I do know that you sell that product, and I have every opportunity to learn about it because of you. Like you probably don't know about wireless Bluetooth controls, but now since we know each other, we have that opportunity. So we want to create those opportunities, and also there's volunteer opportunities. Or maybe you like to write articles. Well, we've got opportunities for people to get their feet wet and try that out if that's something they want to do, but they haven't had the opportunity to do, to get published in SEMA News if they want. We've got social media stuff that we can do. So it's really a place, hey, let's create as many opportunities for young people as possible to get in front of each other, and then provide additional opportunities for them to go out and try new things. Launchpad's another perfect example. I remember sitting around when we first talked about that. What can we do to – the whole goal, and one of the strategic initiatives of the board is youth engagement. But that also isn't just kids in elementary school and junior high. There's a real graying of the industry. And that puts a lot of young people that are involved now in a good spot, because there's going to be less people to fill those important jobs. But at the same time, that means the industry is going to shrink. So we need to highlight young entrepreneurs like Launchpad contestants to say, hey, we want to bring other people into the fold. So that's kind of the purpose of Launchpad is, hey, how can we bring those college students and tech school students into the aftermarket rather than just going to the dealership or going and getting a tech job?
Yeah, and I am a huge proponent of the Launchpad, having participated in it once, not making it to the finals, but participating in the actual aspect of doing it. And then we've interviewed a couple Launchpad participants. And like, if for the listeners that don't know what it is, it's really like a Shark Tank style competition where you get to get up in front of a panel of very prestigious judges and pitch your idea against other people. And they pick a winner, and then you essentially get a free booth at SEMA next year and a whole bunch of publicity. And so I think it's just such a cool idea, and I really encourage everybody to, enter in if you have a cool idea or a cool product, and then just go to the actual competition. At SEMA. We
even got I got to sit in a board of directors meeting, which was rad at PRI. You see stuff, that's, see people doing business at that high of a level, steering the whole industry, everything that is the industry. But, got to sit in there and plead for money. So, the winners now get a $10,000 grant, which is pretty cool. So if you win Launchpad, you get a $10,000 grant to help fund your business.
Okay, I'm definitely going to enter in again next year, like I do every year.
And now they get a free membership. Like the first year you had to be a SEMA member. You don't even have to be a SEMA member anymore.
And they give you you get a little kiosk booth if you make it to the finals. Like, there's all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, sorry you got screwed on the.
Hey man, I still enjoyed it.
So yeah, that's the purpose of Yen. As I take over, I just really want to make sure we're engaging all, almost 2,000 of our members. And, people don't say, hey, what is Yen? I signed up for it and I got the certificate. We want to give them real things to do. And I can't say that we're going to be perfect and do that because, every single person that you see with a select committee badge is a volunteer. And it's, at the end of the day, I tell every new volunteer, this is never going to pay your bills. It's going to give you opportunities by all means, but it's never going to pay your bills, and never put it in front of paying your bills unless you got it like that. If you got it like that, by all means, cool. But, they're all volunteers, and it's you don't always just you can never accomplish everything you want to as a volunteer just because you've got other priorities. But we're trying. We've got a really good group of young people in here.
Yeah, and at SEMA, when is the Yen convention or Yen meeting?
So we have, I believe, on Monday night. Well, Launchpad's been moved to Monday during student orientation lunch or the student lunch. So SEMA brings in like 900 students from tech schools and colleges all across the country to bring young people in. But we're going to do Launchpad there this year so we can, inspire these young people to try to create their own products and create new brands so the industry keeps growing. But then also it's a better opportunity for manufacturers. I've never been to Launchpad myself because I've always been setting up a booth or working a booth.
Okay.
Even though I was there when it got created, I've never been because I've always had to work. So we felt like Monday was a setup day, and it gave more manufacturers the opportunity to come. And we're going to put it more in front of these kids. And that's really what we're trying to do is bring young people into the industry. So that's the best place to put it, right there where it's mandatory that they have to be there. They should enjoy it, So it's been moved over to the LVH. So that'll be on Monday afternoon. Monday around 5, I believe we have an open meeting for Yen, which is basically free beers in a small room and everybody gets talks. And, this year we'll go over some of the opportunities we have to volunteer. And then Tuesday night, which is Halloween this year, we just finalized this today, is our Yen reception. We're looking forward to presenting opportunities about the programs that are involved in Yen. What opportunities we have. Rather than just everybody drinking beer and networking, we're going to give them opportunities to volunteer. So if you want to,
and that is a really fun event. Like it's a big event.
Yeah, we get about 500 people every year, so we want to give people the opportunity to say, hey, if you want to come write articles, come sign up over here. If you want to participate in our social media outreach, come sign up over here. If whatever it may be that we have available, if you want to help host regional networking events, come sign up over here. So we're trying to make everyone aware of what's going on. So that's my goal as the chairman, make sure everyone knows, hey, these are all the programs that are available to you. We don't want it just to be available to an exclusive group of people that only the select committee benefits. We want everyone to benefit. That's the main goal. So Tuesday night will be our reception right after the show. It's in the LVH too. Like you walk through the Optima streetcar alley. Is that North Hall? You come out of North Hall where all the tools and car stereos are. Walk across and we're right there in the same big ballroom. So excited about it. Should be a good year for Yen as it always is. We'll continue to keep growing and hopefully inspiring more young people to get involved and join the industry.
Man, I'm definitely very excited for SEMA again this year. We're going to be going again, and I'm hoping that I win my invite for the Optima Ultimate Streetcar Challenge this year. It's looking like it's going to be pretty tough, but I'll be there regardless.
I thought you were like always a shoe-in.
The competition has gotten so serious that I'm not even close. And then I had a car failure like at the beginning of the year. So
are you in the RS or the Evo now?
I'm in the RS again. Yeah. So the RS broke the beginning of this year. So I was driving a loaner Evo 10 and then I'm back in the RS again.
Loaner Evo 10.
Yeah. Yeah. It was not. It ended up not being a good deal. We bought it from a customer to flip it. And then I ended up, I broke the rear diff and 2 wheel bearings. So it's been like, I ended up racing it, a car that we have for sale, and you never race a car that you have for sale because everything broke. So that was not a good idea. But yeah, back in the RS again. So hopefully, you never know. I got 2 more races this year so I can get some points, but we'll see.
Cool.
But Roy, I really, really appreciate you taking some time to talk with us. And so for our listeners, if they're interested in, learning more about Yen or getting in contact with you, give us some information on what they should do.
Really, one of the things we're really pushing is we're trying to build a community on Facebook. So, join the Yen Facebook group. You do need to be a Yen member. If you're not a Yen member, you can sign up. Just Google SEMA, SEMA. YEN. It's going to take you right to the page. It's free to all people who work at SEMA member companies. So if your company's not a member, I suggest that they become a member. It's a great idea for all the benefits. Yep. It's not expensive. I don't think SEMA dues have been raised since like the 80s. The price of the booths aren't getting any cheaper, but your member dues are actually.
Dues are not. Yeah, the member dues are very reasonable.
Yeah. But go sign up, Google SEMA Yen, it'll pop up. It's real easy to sign up, and there's a list of opportunities, and somebody will reach out and say, hey, this is what we got going on. Definitely show up to the reception, whether you're a member or not. If anything, there's free alcohol, but,
it's always an enticing aspect for getting people
for
to come
any party. But it's a great place to meet other young people. Say, hey, how are you accomplishing these goals? What software are you using? How much should I be making?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ask anything.
How do I deal with my crazy boss at this family business? Things like that. So, definitely come out, to the reception at the show. We've got some networking events. I don't know how soon you plan on putting this out, but we have one coming up at the Sand Show on September 16th at the Orange County Fairgrounds from 7 to 8 p.m.
Very cool.
Look for the flyer.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have done stuff at Formula Drift, and I'm trying to think of some of the other big ones. But I mean, you do networking events all over the country, and it sounds like you guys are doing more networking events because, being here in Dallas, we did have a town hall meeting, so that was cool. Chris came out and did a town hall meeting in Dallas. So, but yeah, getting people active around the country in times other than SEMA, I think is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I definitely want to get one on the calendar for Lone Star Throwdown. I think that'd be a good one. Got to do something in Texas, man. I spent a lot of time there this year. That market's just too big not to be reaching out to people. Man, so many trucks.
Lots of trucks. Everybody buys big trucks.
And then you see all this drag racing and street racing stuff going on. You're like, damn.
Yeah, it's a little pocket. It's like a pocket of automotive stuff here in the South. But the problem is all the cities are really spread out. So, it just amazes me how close everything is in California or the East Coast. And then you come to Texas, it's like, oh, you got to drive 4 hours to get somewhere. So
there's grass in between cities.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely want to get Texas on there, but we got one coming up at the Sand Sports Super Show in September. If this gets edited by then, look for a flyer. Just join the Yen Facebook group if anything, or like the page, and you'll get updates on that.
Well, cool, man.